with the Las Vegas Colo. For the last several years, my family has been vacationing in the Outer Banks of North Carolina. It's right on the coast, on the beach. Every year I notice these little birds called sandpipers. They're remarkable little creatures. They're maybe the size of your fist. Their diet is really interesting. They like to eat little crabs, bugs, insects. But the way they eat is absolutely fascinating. You see, the sandpipers don't want to get wet from the ocean. If they get wet, their wings get weighted down and it'll be much more difficult for them to fly. So they avoid getting wet. And the way they do this is remarkable. As a wave comes in, the sandpipers run away not to get wet from that wave. But when the wave then recedes and goes back to the ocean, these little sandpipers scurry along, chasing that wave and pecking into the ground, foraging for those little crabs, those little bugs, as the water recedes and exposing those little burrows where the bugs might be hiding. And the little sandpipers peck, searching for food. But then invariably, a few seconds later, the next wave comes. The sandpipers not wanting to get wet, well, they scurry along trying to avoid getting touched by that wave and getting wet, and they run away from the water. And then the process repeats itself. The wave recedes, and the sandpipers run back, chasing that water and pecking into the ground looking for food. And this little dance goes on and on and on. The birds running after the waves and then trying to avoid the wave. Back and forth they go, and it's just absolutely fascinating to watch. There's a remarkable verse in Proverbs, in Mishlei, where King Solomon tells us, Ki sheva yipol tzadik v'kam. The righteous person, he falls down 7 times, v'kam, but he gets up. However, Rishayim, the wicked, yikashlu bira. They stumble with evil. They stumble when something bad happens. Rabbeinu Yonah, one of the classic commentaries, makes a remarkable observation. He notices, Ki sheva yipol tzadik v'kam. The righteous person, he gets up after stumbling 7 times. He'll still get up. The wicked person, yikashlu bira, the interesting language is he stumbles bira with evil. It doesn't say multiple evils. It doesn't say that after 7 times he gives up, but rather the wicked person, yikashlu bira, he gives up after stumbling just once in the singular. Just one ra'ah, one bad thing that happens, and he gives up. King Solomon is telling us a very important element of success. If we want to be successful people, if we want to be righteous when it comes to our religious growth, but when it comes to really any element of our life, in any area, in any domain, if we want to be successful, we got to recognize, Ki sheva yipol tzadik v'kam. You're going to fall down 7 times, but the mark of greatness is getting up off the mat, is not giving up, even though you failed 7 times. And the mark of failure is the person who gives up bira'ah, when he encounters one element of adversity. He fails once and he says, you know what, this isn't for me. A mark of strength, a mark of character is Ki sheva yipol tzadik v'kam. The righteous person gets up after falling down 7 times. I think King Solomon is teaching us a really profound idea. If you think about, as an example, baseball, the classic example, success in baseball, if you can hit a baseball 3 times out of 10, you're a Hall of Famer. Success is determined at 30%. That's considered really, really remarkable. So often in life, we get frustrated by our failures, and the reason we get frustrated is our expectation of what that threshold, what that percent of success ought to be, is simply not realistic. We have to recognize when it comes to our religious growth, sheva yipol tzadik v'kam, the righteous person, he's going to make 7 mistakes. He's going to encounter 7 elements of adversity, v'kam, but he's going to get up. The mark of a rasha, the mark of the wicked person, the mark of failure is the person who goes ahead and doesn't have realistic expectations. He fails, he stumbles 1 time, and he's down for the count. Part of our success, part of our ability to be successful people is to recognize we are going to fail. Failure is a part of life. Our expectations are sometimes not in line with reality. Sometimes hitting a baseball just 3 times out of 10 is great. We shouldn't have expectations of trying to hit that baseball 6 times out of 10. That's not realistic. 3 times out of 10, you're in the Hall of Fame. It's true in every domain of our lives. We have to make sure our measure for success is in line with reality. When it comes to our spiritual growth, when it comes to relationships, our professional growth, we've got to remember, Ki sheva yipol tzadik v'kam, the righteous person gets up 7 times. You know what's remarkable about observing those sandpipers year after year? I can sit there on the beach watching these sandpipers going back and forth and back and forth. And I gotta be honest, they're really, really bad. I'm gonna guess they find a bug maybe 1 out of every 100 pecks that they make in the ground. I'll bet you it's not even 1 out of 1,000. They very rarely come up with a bug. And it dawned on me, here we are, more than 5,000 years after creation, the sandpipers have figured out a way of survival. If you're a sandpiper, you're trying to get 1 bug out of every 1,000 pecks in the ground. If you can do that, you're successful. And it's such a powerful illustration of the idea, Sheva Yipol Tzadik V'Kam. If you're a sandpiper, you're going to fail 999 times out of 1,000, and you're doing just fine. That's success. In our lives, we've got to remember and identify what is a realistic benchmark for success. And we have to remind ourselves, Ki sheva yipol tzadik v'kam. A righteous person, a successful person, you're going to fail 7 times. The mark of success is the person who v'kam, who's going to be able to get up and endure and persevere through adversity time and time again.